Yo, what's happening, everyone? I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday. I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. I know I am here on Snaps, your new favorite college football podcast. How long can I keep saying new? If we've gone through the entire football season, can we still be considered? Can we
Maybe
still
like
be considered
full
new? Aaron
calendar
Murray?
year? Full calendar year?
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. I agree. So we're still the new kids on the block. Screw you, Josh Pate. Screw you, Joel Klatt. Screw you, unnecessary roughness. I want beef with all the college football podcasts because I'll say it right here. In a physical fight, I guarantee we would beat any other college football podcast's ass. Unless there's any with like, if there's any with like Takeo Spikes or like Benjamin Watson, then probably not that. But besides those guys, I mean, if Peter Burns on their squad, though, that's a huge weakness. We probably kick their ass as well. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about our chances here, Aaron. Plus, we probably have the tallest producer in the game. I mean, Ryan Brumley's like 6'4". He's a big boy.
That's the kicker. I think Brumley's the kicker. And big shout out to Brumley. Right now, like last week I didn't have a ring light and was working with some new lighting, and I felt really pasty white next to T-Bob. Got a new ring light, and now T-Bob, you look pasty white next to me. You look ghostly as shit.
I have a ring light.
I'm sorry.
I have a ring light.
I'm looking especially
white today, dude. It's so bad. It's so bad. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the white walls behind me. Like, well, I mean, I haven't slept at all since the baby, but like, yeah, it's look, it's not a great. People don't have good hair days. It's not a good melanin day for your boy. Okay. I could use a little bit more. Abar asked me, I'm feeling good. How's my shoulder? My shoulder is fine. For those who don't know, I'm going through midlife crisis. So I found myself skateboarding around the neighborhood, listening to the Garden State soundtrack at 9 p.m. last night for a solid 45-minute sesh. Very fun. Fell a lot, but whatever. Yeah, I'm a pasty boy, you know what? But I'm going to live it loud and proud. I got a new light too that I'm going to try out here in a bit because, yeah, I do have a ring light right now, and I should have shaved my cheeks. Whatever. This is an audio podcast mainly. By the way, one more rating till we hit 50 ratings on the Apple Podcast Store. Hell yes. Please keep it going. 4.8 stars. We love to see that as well. Though I want you to be honest in your stars. I don't care. Just rate it, review it, share it with your friends so that everybody can come hang out with us here on Snaps. We are on live, youtube.com/thevolume every day. Shout out FanDuel Sportsbook app, promo code SNAPS when you sign up. Yeah, Aaron, stop bullying me, dude. That is
I'm not bullying. Don't be so sensitive.
Blake Walter said, Alabama getting good news. Don't think a single Bama fan will miss him. What he's talking about is the fact that Bill O'Brien is going to the NFL. Pete Golding, of course, already going to Ole Miss just a couple of weeks ago. And so now Nick Saban having to replace both coordinators. And Blake, I'm glad you said that. Because your attitude is kind of one of the things that I want to talk about today. Because the bottom line is that Alabama's never going to be happy with any of their coordinators. You will always be upset. I think that you have created a standard of perfection that I don't know that can be reached. I mean, the last 5 OCs for Alabama are either NFL head coaches, NFL offensive coordinators, or major Power 5 head coaches, right? You got Sark, you got Kiffin, you got Daboll, you got Loxley, and then now, of course, Bill O'Brien going back to the Patriots. And yet, despite all that, you're ready to run Bill O'Brien out of town. I mean, you got an NFL head coach who'd won multiple divisions. You hated Bill O'Brien. I don't think you liked Brian Daboll. I can't remember. You didn't like Loxley. Like, it's just you liked Kiffin. But yeah, I don't think Alabama fans are pining for a standard that I don't think that they'll ever match again, Aaron.
Yeah, I think that we're a really interesting time for Alabama at the moment because you're trying to find excuses of why you're not seeing that consistency that you saw from 2008 to about 2020 or 21 when you're winning a lot of championships. You're essentially in it every year. And now all of a sudden it looks like you're getting, somewhat run out of the building. And there's a new bad bully on the block, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. That's Kirby Smart and other guys that were on your staff that left that now have turned Georgia into the monster that it is today, and the most consistent team in America for the past 2 years, a team that's won back-to-back national championships. So they're just trying to hold on. They are holding on for dear life of this incredible dynasty that I don't think will ever be matched again. But it's been glorious. It's been one that, like I said, has never been done before. Don't know if it will ever happen again. And you don't want to get off the roller coaster.
You don't believe that Kirby's
at some
going to
point
do it?
You want to. I do think Kirby's going to get close, but man, I don't think he's going to match what Nick Saban. Just to be honest, like I don't know if he's going to match what Nick Saban just did. I don't know if anyone can. Like it's absolutely amazing, the consistency,
Why?
the draft picks, the championships. I think because the way the game is changing, it's going to be harder, T-Bob, to do what Nick has done over the past 14 years.
Okay, maybe with an expanded playoffs, it changes the math a little bit. But I mean, if we just look at it, he's consistently stacking, top two recruiting classes like Nick Saban did during this entire era. They won back-to-back championships, something that Nick Saban has only done once, even in this golden era. You saw Kirby after the game. He went up to students, what did he do? Or went up to fans and said 1, 2, then he threw that third finger up. Okay. So making, all throwing down the gauntlet that a third natty's coming next year. He's only 47 years old, Aaron. Like, I don't know how you suddenly got me defending the chances of Kirby Smart to pass up Nick Saban. But yeah, maybe the expanded playoffs working against him, but maybe honestly it's not. Because even in a down year where maybe Georgia slips up a couple times, they still get in the playoffs. Then who wants to see the team in the playoffs that has the best players? Right?
I just think now, you look at the SEC at the moment. Just look at the SEC. It's just the coaches in this league right now. I think obviously you guys at LSU right now are on. I think LSU is going to be a tear in the next 5 to 10 years. I think what they did in year one and what's going to happen going forward is going to be a team that's going to contend for championships over and over and over again as well. So you got to contend with Alabama as long as Nick Saban's there. They're always a force. You got to contend with LSU. You got to contend with, I do think Jeremy Pruitt, who just got a big fat raise, he's going to be getting $9 million per year. Tennessee ain't going anywhere.
Wait. Hold on. You had a Freudian slip. You said Jeremy Pruitt. You said Jeremy Pruitt got a $9 million raise. And I was
Josh Heupel.
What?
Josh Heupel.
Who is Jeremy Pruitt?
I had Jeremy Pruitt on my mind because I was taking some notes before the show, and it's like Jeremy Pruitt is a possible, DC at Alabama. So that's why, no, Jeremy Pruitt, Tennessee, throw up. No, we're not talking about that. Josh Heupel, big fat raise, $9 million at Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee is going anywhere either. They are going to be. Maybe they're not at Georgia's level right now, but he's going to continue to stack and stack and stack and stack and stack. So I think it's going to be harder and harder to win championships in the SEC. I think it's going to be harder and harder to win championships across the country for the expanded playoff. So do I want, as a selfishly as a Georgia fan with a Georgia helmet right here behind me, do I want Georgia to continue to win championships? Yes. But if I want to be realistic, to think that Georgia's going to win the amount of championships that Nick Saban has won at Alabama over the past 14 years, I don't think it's going to happen. Will they get close? Will Kirby have the chance to be closer than Dabo? Will he have a chance to be closer than anyone else? Yes, I think he will build consistency, but I don't know if you can match that excellence, which Nick has done. So
he's won 6. So he's won he's won 6 at Bama alone. So I guess 7 total. If we're just talking at Bama versus Kirby at Georgia, Aaron, you already got a third of them. You already got 33%. And I'm sorry. I know Alabama fans are trying to use Clemson as their grand hope that UGA is going to fall in a similar way, but I just don't see the parallels there. Kirby Smart is not Dabo Swinney. In fact, he's smarter than Dabo Swinney. Okay. And so, no, I think this is sustainable from the Little Hobbit. And I don't expect y'all to be going anywhere. And I look forward to a decade plus of hating the Bulldogs. It feels good, man, because, I grew up hating Georgia because both LSU and Georgia were kind of battling in those early 2000s. And, I went to school in Atlanta, so I'm just surrounded by Bulldog fans constantly, just doing all that weird, cringy stuff like damn good dog and everything, which, by the way, we are putting together a top 5 douchiest things in college football, and damn good dog is in the top 5. So the point is, I grew up putting a ton on that LSU Georgia game, and then I don't know, y'all just got bad for so long that it didn't really matter. So I'm glad to see that y'all matter again. and that we can start caring about one another again. I look forward to hating you for the next decade.
Yeah. I appreciate the rivalry that's now going to start between hopefully Georgia and LSU, and we can move away from the Georgia and Alabama rivalry and those two seeing each other in the SEC championship every single year. But going back to, and circling us back to where Alabama is and why there's such a frustration from the fan base is because you have been so good. You have been the elite team for so long, and now all of a sudden that, like I said, it's slipping out of your fingertips, and you're just like trying to find any excuse of like, okay, if we just change this, then next year we're going to have success. So first it starts with the coordinators. Let's get rid of both coordinators. And then next year, if that doesn't work, I don't know what you do after that. Like, what do you do at that point? Like, if that's not the coordinator, maybe then
you find another straw man. I mean, maybe it's a special teams guy. Maybe it becomes, then maybe you go to the strength coach who's like, ever since Scott Cochran left, we've sucked. It must be the new strength coach. Or it's like, ever since we started taking in these premier transfers, the culture's falling apart. We got to stop transfers. Like, trust me when I say, so Dan Carlin talks about this in the Hardcore History podcast, all right? That given enough time, no historical take stone will be left unturned, right? So like there will be people eventually, and he uses this as a specific example, that will create books and stuff based on like the positive effects of the Third Reich. Now, obviously that seems insane to us, but in the same way, college football message boards will leave no take stone unturned. So next year, maybe it's a strength coach, then maybe it's transfers, then maybe it's a lack of NIL, even though they have more NIL, and eventually it'll become Nick Saban. And then that will be the final straw of the Alabama empire as it comes crumbling down.
I don't know how he does
he's
it,
old.
Honestly. He is. Like, I know he's proven that he can handle the turnover. Like, hey, it's fine. I'll find a new OC, I'll find a new DC, and we'll start the new season like nothing ever changed. But at some point, that has to catch up to him. Like the fact that one, he's not winning, two, that he's dealing with roster turnover, that he's dealing with coaching turnover, that he's dealing with a completely new college football when it comes to expanded playoffs and NIL. Like, man, it's I don't know. Like we talk about Kirby being 47 and maybe being able to handle a lot of this better than him because of the age difference. Like at some point, Nick is going to have to look himself in the mirror and honestly ask the question, is this just getting to be too much? Is it? And I know like at the end, if he loves what he's doing, if he does have the energy to do it, he still looks like he's in pretty good shape, but it's going to catch up sooner rather than later for Alabama. I think that's all that needs to be part of this next process too, of like, if I'm an Alabama fan, I'm asking the question, is one of the guys that we're about to hire as an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, is the thought process of this guy could take over in 3 years? That has to be the question. Do you go out there and hire a stud that there could be a possible transition period in 3 or 4 years? He's going to be 76 years old in 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
76. Like that
good math.
There needs to start, you have to start game planning for what the next decade is going to be. You can't just hire guys for a season. If you're Alabama, this is a trial period of who can we bring in that could possibly take over in 3 or 4 years.
I mean, Brum, there it is, right? There's
is Nick Saban hiring his replacement?
Yes. Is Nick Saban hiring his replacement? Does Alabama need to hire a coach in waiting, right? Like, are we getting into a Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Bowden sort of situation? Look, I'll be clear about a couple of things. I think there's actually, so my initial reaction to that comment, Aaron, is to laugh, but there probably is more validity there than I'm willing to give credence to in terms of like what's going through the AD's head. Unfortunately, it is a situation where whatever Nick Saban says goes, right? And so, yeah, maybe behind closed doors, Nick Saban admits that he's getting tired and admits that it's maybe time to start to groom the next guy. But something tells me with revenge this fresh on his mind and with his blood having been spilled this recently, these last couple of years, that I don't think Nick Saban's there yet. And so, sure, maybe the AD wants to secretly entertain such ideas, but it would have to come from Nick. I guess what I'm saying is if Nick doesn't want to go the coach you're waiting around, it's definitely not happening. Mine Not For Rent in the chat says, this is so pathetic. Bama's downfall is a runner-up year in 2021 and 2 close losses in 2022. So I agree with what you're saying, and I see what you're saying there. Mind not friend. But at the same time, we are judging a level of greatness that is such that to maintain it, small cracks appear very large. And in fact, do end up leading to larger cracks. Like, for instance, there is that stat that I keep going back to, which is in the entirety of the Saban era, all 15 years that he's been at Alabama, 25% of the one-score games have come the last 2 seasons. So it's not just the close losses. Like, there's been close wins as well. It's one of the reasons why I was so over Alabama fans talking about how we deserve this or that because we lost close in these games. Okay, well, do you deserve to be dinged because you barely beat a Texas A&M team that was garbage? Like, you don't get credit for being close one way or another. So the cracks are showing. And I look, I've been very clear that if I'm a gun to my head bet, I think Nick has a punch back left in him, certainly. I mean, they just put together the greatest class in history. But the reason why any of this actually feels like a potential crumbling of the empire is mainly because of Georgia. So it's not just the runner-up, the 2 losses, the 25% of close games, a defense that is not at all as dominant as it once was. It's the fact that UGA has come in, and now they do all of that. They won the back-to-back national championships. They have the defense that still puts up the old school defensive statistics in a day and age when we don't even think that's possible. They are the ones who are stacking the best recruits. They're not taking any transfers. Alabama is having to take transfers. So, like, it's not just in a vacuum that we're saying this about Alabama. It's that somebody might be taking them off their top perch. And I don't care who you are, any fall from grace hurts. And a fall from 1 to 2 is still a fall, especially for Alabama fans that expect you to just walk in and beat ass every single weekend. And probably still will, except when they run up against Bulldogs and LSU.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. You kind of look at their schedule next year, and I do think I'm interested to see like if Alabama does take a step back next year, which I'm anticipating, unless they somehow get some elite quarterback in the transfer portal after spring. But then the question is, okay, if you're getting a quarterback in the portal after spring, that's most likely because they didn't win their position at their school. So what makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside that he's going to be some stud? It just wasn't a great quarterback class when it comes to transfer portals. There's maybe a couple good ones. I don't want to say anyone that could take you to a national championship. Sorry to our Notre Dame fans and those and probably walnuts there. But they have an issue at quarterback, plain and simple. Like, they do not have a quarterback right now. Like, if I'm ranking quarterbacks in the SEC West, Alabama's dead last. You go from having the best quarterback that you've ever had at the University of Alabama, and you couldn't win a natty with him, to now being at the bottom of the list for next season when it comes to quarterback play in your conference or in your side of the SEC. So what happens next year when Alabama goes 9-3? Because that's a possibility. That is a big time possibility right now that LSU next year, because of what they're losing, quarterback, running back, top defensive end, nickel linebacker, safeties, guys on both sides of the football. If you couldn't do it this year, and T-Bob just alluded to it, it's been 2 years now where we've seen close wins after close wins after close wins. It's closing in on them, and it's closing in on Nick Saban. So I don't feel good about next year. I really don't. And plus, you're having to bring in a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new defensive coordinator. It's going to be, we think the fans are pissed off now for Alabama. Just wait till they go 9-3 next year or 8-4. Which I'm leaning more towards that and LSU going back to back.
Yes. 8-4 Alabama sounds like a wet dream that I had one time. I don't even know if I can allow myself to entertain such a year. That would be fantastic. Greg Schaefer says their development's been lacking the past few years. They've had offensive weapons to cover these issues up until now. Development's interesting. I think that's kind of fascinating because we talked about Scott Cochran on the AMP show a little bit, and correlation does not always equal causation. We all know that, right? It's not 1-to-1. But it can, correlation can be a sign of a contributing factor, right? And when you look at the slippage is what I'll call it. I'm not going to call it downfall. When you look at the slippage of Alabama and the rise of Kirby Smart and UGA, Scott Cochran leaving Alabama and going to UGA directly coincides. It mirrors it. And you may say, T-Bob, I mean, why does that matter? It's a strength coach. You're making too much of it. Well, look, your strength coach is who you spend 90% of your college football career with. And I know he's a special teams coordinator at Georgia, so it is a bit different there. I'll grant you that, though his philosophy, I would imagine, have a heavy impact on how Georgia trains and develops, right? But you spend your time with your strength coach like 90% of the year. And I know from my own firsthand experience, and I played at LSU 07 through 11. So, booking with national championships, they're part of a kind of an LSU golden era where you're more competitive in those 20 years than you ever were any other time. The X factor behind it, like the reason why Les Miles was still putting more people in the NFL than any other school, despite the fact that you weren't winning at the rate that you should have been, was because of Tommy Moffitt, the strength coach. The guy's unbelievable. Now, eventually his time came and Jake Flint and Brian Kelly had to move on. But like Tommy Moffitt was the reason why LSU stayed so talented, sending so many guys to the NFL. And I think it's Scott Cochran, who was actually a former Moffitt disciple back in the day and was on that 03 LSU Natty team as well, that staff. It's why Scott Cochran was one of the keys behind Alabama. And I think they miss him. And I think UGA has benefited off him, even with, I know, some of the kind of mental health issues that he had to work through. So, yeah, I think that if you're saying that the development is not the same, I think that that's saying, I think that's potentially accurate.
I think the development, the biggest difference for me when you watch Alabama these past 2 years, if you want to just focus on the offensive side of the football, is really the receivers and the offensive line. Like, you think Alabama, for me, you think, the team that wins in the trenches, like they got 4- and 5-star offensive linemen and 4- and 5-star defensive linemen. Like they're the bullies. They're the big 6'5", 6'6", 320. They walk off the bus like, oh man, we're in deep shit today. And they just impose their will. Like that's how Nick Saban built this team. They were nastier, they were more physical, they were more dominant. And in the past 2 years, they haven't been that. And then also it seems like too, ever since, was it 2009, 2010, when they had Julio, ever since then, they've always had a stud receiver. And then all of a sudden, 2016, 2017, you start getting 2 or 3 stud receivers. And then so the past 2 years, the big downfall to me when it comes to development is not developing these offensive linemen, not developing these receivers, because it's not like they're not getting these 4- and 5-star guys. They're getting them. They're just not turning them into what we saw for a decade plus. Like that's the issue. So that's going to be the challenge for whoever does take over, especially on the offensive side of the football. What kind of offense do you want to build? Did you get caught trying to build an offense that was more finesse? And then all of a sudden, when you didn't have the receivers to be able to play that style of football, you kind of got stuck in a hard place. Does Nick Saban say, screw that? We have a mobile quarterback. We have a physical quarterback. I want to bring in a guy that wants to dominate the line of scrimmage, because honestly, that's what Georgia's done. Georgia has demonstrated 100%. To America that you could still win that style of football, and so is Michigan. Let's look at like the 2 teams that have been more consistent than anyone else in the country these past 2 years are teams that have done it the more old school, traditional way. Run the football, dominate the lines of scrimmage, play good defense. Not quarterbacks irrelevant, high-powered offense. Yeah, not irrelevant, just not the guy who has to win it for you.
Yes, finally. So, I think you are admitting the offensive line is the most important position, Aaron. I agree, dude. For what it's worth, I agree.
So I'm interested to see, does Nick change his mindset of we try to do this, it worked for a little bit, but now we're losing because we're not physical. And I think that's going to be a big decision of who he goes with his next OC.
And so that this question. Okay, first off, who is harder to replace for Nick Saban in Alabama, Bill O'Brien or Pete Golding?
I think Bill O'Brien is going to be harder.
Yeah, I think that's easy.
Nick's still a defensive guy.
That's an easy.
That's easy. Yeah.
And also, like, Nick doesn't mess with the offense, right? So, like, he is almost hiring a pseudo head coach just on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep.
Like you said, Nick knows defense. He'll be involved somewhat defensively. And he can even bring like a young guy, like he could bring Schumann in and kind of help guide him and like make him and kind of develop him. What, bro? I don't know, dude. I mean, you got Matt Rule cooking your players now. The corn, like, I don't know. You're losing players in Nebraska left and right. I don't know what to tell you. Like, Bama's probably going to take Schumann
alone.
And then also, though, again, really appreciate, like, Bill O'Brien, I don't believe, at least, was as bad as people were making him out to be. Now,
No.
maybe I'll end up being proven wrong here, but again, we are talking about a former NFL head coach that won his division in the NFL multiple times, former NFL GM. Well, he was actually pretty shitty at that part. But the point is, that guy's a good coach.
Yep.
Bill Belichick just hired him to be his OC.
Yeah.
So, like, that's my favorite part. I'm going to get a bunch of Bama fans in my mentions telling me Bill O'Brien sucks and Bill Belichick just hired him to be his OC. Hey, square that circle for me. You know more than Bill Belichick does about good offensive football.
Bill Belichick, he's not out here like he's not a charity case. You're talking about probably the best NFL coach of the past decade plus. Like he's not just hiring someone just to hire someone. Like I know they were pretty bad on offense this year and they were maybe somewhat desperate, but still, like you're bringing him in because you have a lot of confidence that he can revamp the Patriots offense and get them going come next season. So. Yeah, like you lost a really good play caller. At the end of the day, it was still a really good offense. It wasn't maybe the 2020 offense, but it was still a very good offense, an explosive offense. So I'm interested, man. There's a lot of good names out there. Obviously, I think if Nick Saban calls you, you're gonna pick up, you're gonna answer, you're gonna take it all in. And some of the names that that have been floating around are Greg Roman, former offensive coordinator there for the Ravens. That one's really interesting to me because you saw.
I can see Greg Roman.
We talk about the physicality of maybe what Nick wants to get to.
Yeah.
Look what he did with the offense there for the Ravens, and then the ability to run the football. Then all of a sudden you look at Alabama and who may be your quarterback next year? Well, your quarterback may be a running quarterback. It may be Jalen Milroe. So do you just say, hey, this is our personnel? He had success there in the NFL doing this, at least transforming their offense. Maybe he can have that similar success here, and I want to get more physical at the line of scrimmage. So to me, that would be my number one if I'm going after anyone. Actually, my number one would be Dan Mullen, but I don't think Dan's leaving. I think Dan is very happy right now, taking maybe another year off to kind of let things settle. I'd go Dan Mullen 1, Greg Roman 2, and then your boy Joe Brady 3. Would be my top 3.
Yeah, so
that if I'm Nick Saban, I'm calling.
On the Mullen front, I would be terrified because I expect two of you hire Mullen. You tell him that his recruiting responsibilities will be minimal and that you're mainly just going to let him focus on X's and O's. And he consistently got the better of Dave Aranda. He consistently coached that Mississippi State program to more wins than they kind of deserved. He doesn't always get the credit that he deserves. And so, no, I do not want to see Alabama's talent teamed up with the mind of Dan Mullen. That would be as bad as Jim Leonard on the defensive side of the ball. Joe Brady would be certainly very interesting. That would be Saban kind of taking a chance. Like, I don't think you can consider Joe Brady a sure thing. Like, he did not call plays in 2019 for LSU. Steve Ensminger called plays. And he called plays in Carolina, and it seemed like it was going well until it kind of blew up in his face. So, yeah, I'm not entirely – like, I would say if Nick Saban were to do that, that's a credit to Joe Brady because he nailed the interview process. Yeah. Like, that is not like Greg Roman, you just hire – like, if Greg Roman wants to come to Alabama, I think you just hire Greg Roman. And also with Jalen Milroe, if that does indeed end up being the quarterback, I think there's never been a better time to go with one of those quarterback run first offense. Look at the Ravens, look at the Eagles. Like, it's being used to great effect on the top level of football. And you're going to tell me you can't do it on college football? It's like a little off meta. You're zigging where everyone's zagging. No, I agree with you. I think you can make huge headway there. Now, I do want to give credit to Shad and Mine Not For It in the chat, who, for all my square that circle, who did Bill Belichick hire as OC talk, he did hire Matt Patricia as OC as well. So, I mean, even the greats have their misses. But Bill Belichick doesn't miss twice in a row, okay? And this time he's telling you that Bill O'Brien's a very good coach. So offensively, those are some names to look out for. That's going to be the harder side of the ball to replace. But as hated as Bill O'Brien was, I don't think it holds a candle to Pete Golding, who Alabama fans were ready to string up and flay and shame in the market square. Like, if T-Town was to put on a public execution of Pete Golding, it would have looked medieval, and the amount of people that would have showed up, popcorn in hand, cheering for what was about to go down. They all tell me that he took a top 2 defensive team and made them into a top 20 team. Aaron, is this accurate? Was Pete Golding a failure? Was he underperforming in Alabama?
I mean, by their standards, yeah, but I think overall, no, I don't think so at all. I mean, they were still one of the top 3 defenses in the SEC this year. They're the number 2 defense in the SEC the year before. 2020, they're the number 3 defense. 2019, they're number 5 defense. They've been a top 5 defense in the best conference in America for the past 4 years. So no, he did not underachieve. Like, this was still an elite side of the football. Like, I think the Alabama fans have to also realize too that the game has changed. Like, this isn't, I know you want the Alabama defense of 2012 and 11 and 10 and only giving up 10, 11, 12 points per game. But, once again, the game has changed. Offenses will score points. Offenses against great defenses will score points. And, even Georgia's elite defense struggled against Alabama last year. Even Georgia's elite defense this year struggled against Ohio State. That's just the name of the game. So I think for this era of football, with the up-tempo offenses, with the spread offenses, with the really good quarterback play that's now emerged in the SEC, along with really good receivers that we've seen, there was going to be a drop in defensive production. Doesn't mean they're bad. Statistically, they're still one of the best defenses in the conference. There's one of the best defenses in America. So, no, I think Pete Golding was fine. I thought both coordinators were still some of the best coordinators out there. It's just Alabama standards are crazy. That's just plain simple. Their standards and what they expect are through the roof, and that's just not attainable.
So I'm inclined to agree with you, especially my initial instinct is when you talk about, it is a new era of football and that you're pining for days that do not exist anymore. I am a little fascinated to see how Pete Golding's going to do at Ole Miss, right? Like, I mean, you don't need Ole Miss to be a dominant defense, but like they're going to have to take a noticeable uptick if Golding wants to justify that, no, he was not the problem at Alabama and that it's just the reality of the game nowadays. And I'm with you, Aaron. When I think of the Alabama standard defense, I too go back to 10-11 where it's like, 8 points a game, 10 points a game. But the name that Alabama fans want in Jeremy Pruitt, which is hilarious given all the shit that they talked about him at Tennessee over the past few years. But the name they want in Jeremy Pruitt actually did this a bit more recently. I mean, Alabama gave up 13 points a game in 2016 under Pruitt, and they give up 11.9 in 2017. Since Pruitt left, they've basically been giving up about 18 to 20. And really, when you look at the SEC, UGA is the only defense that has kind of kept that 15 points and under standard almost every one of those years. So, yeah, it's still really.
I'm looking at their schedule right now from this year, and I'm just going to list off the points they gave up: 0, 19, 7, 3, 26, 20. The big one was obviously Tennessee for 52, 6, 32, 24, 0, 27, 20. Like, it's a pretty damn good year defensively, T-Bob. I mean, that's a really good year defensively. You had the one big game where you crapped the bed versus Tennessee, which was one of the best offenses in the country on the road. But other than that, they were one time.
One thing they actually were pretty objectively bad at, they allowed the last couple of years when we get all these close games, they allowed teams to score in critical situations quite a bit, which is surprising, right? Like they even let that broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, that LSU was having their way by the end of the game. They let that broken-ass Texas A&M offense get down to the last play, like go on this crazy drive when they kind of needed it most. But okay, Chad is saying that nobody wants Jeremy Pruitt. They're saying that Glenn Schumann is a Kirby protege and he ain't leaving. So then who do you get? And the one name that I don't want them to get is Jim Leonhard. If Alabama is able to recruit and land Jim Leonhard, that would be the sign of a new dark age. That would be, the Empire Strikes Back. That's like hiring Bob. That's just not good. It's just not good. We cannot have that. So everybody needs to put all their energy towards no Jim Leonhard to Alabama. Outside of that, I don't care who you go. They're probably going to be pretty good because they're going to have the best players.
I think Pruitt's a great decision, especially if there's no, which I'm sure they're trying to figure out now, as long as there's no baggage that comes along with him, which obviously they wouldn't hire him if there was any issues from what went down at Tennessee. So they would hire him knowing that, hey, he's not going to have any restrictions. He's full go, whether it's recruiting or anything else. I think Jeremy Pruitt would be a great hire for him. I think Jeremy Pruitt is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. I don't respect him or like him as a head coach. Obviously, we all saw what unfolded there at Tennessee, but as a defensive coordinator, defensive mind, I still think he's one of the best in the game. I think him and Jim Leonard would both be coordinators where you put them together with Nick Saban, you're like, oh, damn, like this defense may actually get a little bit better next year. Then the pressure's just put on the offense.
Yeah, and really, so that's where it gets scary on the offense. It may be harder to replace, but that is the spot. And let's be clear, Alabama's a very attractive job on both sides, but the offense has got to be uber attractive, right? Because not only do you realize that you're going to have better play, like if you're coming from the NFL. Hey, do you want to coach a team where your team is just going to be better than the other one 99% of Saturdays? Like, that's got to feel pretty good compared if you're out there, I don't know, like with the Jags or something punching up or whatever. The NFL's all equal, but like you're just going to have advantages. And then you look at the fact that, like we said earlier, okay, so the last 5 offensive coordinators are now all major Power 5 or NFL head coaches with a couple NFL OCs mixed in. And you're really going to get to run your offense. Like you're going to basically be the head coach of your side of the ball. Like I almost feel like Nick Saban can go anywhere and just pick who he wants for OC. Now like maybe some NFL guys he could have just rip away, but I just feel like the easiest sell in the world is to go to Alabama, coach that offense, put up crazy stat, and then be hired as a head coach somewhere.
What about I know Cliff right now, Kingsbury's enjoying life in Thailand with great scenery around him.
Yes.
Great scenery around him. But there is some sort of clause that he has to look for some sort of employment in order to keep getting those big fat paychecks. He can't just sit around for 5 years and say, I'm just going to get mailbox money from the Arizona Cardinals and just gotta go to Thailand with my girlfriend and hang out. Like I think he actually has to do some sort of job. And who knows, maybe he does love coaching. Maybe he wants to get back into it. So I'm sure that there will be some sort of discussions possibly with him because he's too. I mean, his offense would match something that is unique that would bring. It's funny. I mean, all 3 coordinators that we've talked about, at least the ones that I feel good about at Alabama, whether it's Dan Mullen, Greg Roman, or him, all run a quarterback run first offense or some sort of zone read. Obviously, Dan Mullen, did show that he could evolve there his last years or last couple of years, but they all run some sort of offense that incorporates a Jalen Milroe style scheme. So that to me, those are 3 guys that if I'm looking at my personnel and I know I want to win now, I'm looking at them based on what they want to run.
Yeah, I had a vision this morning of Cliff in Thailand. He's got like a Hawaiian shirt on unbuttoned, some cool like Wayfarer glasses. He's drinking margs. He's getting like a lap dance. Yeah, Buffett's playing. He's getting like a lap dance on the beach by some random girl. And then next thing you know, she straddles him facing face to face. And it's getting like real hot and steamy, right? And then Mission Impossible style, she rips off her face and there's Nick Saban. And it's like, God damn it. And Cliff immediately knows what the deal is. Like, he doesn't even fight it. He just puts down the drink. He gets up and he follows Nick Saban back to the private jet. And then he is enchained in Tuscaloosa, either as the OC, though it may feel like he might have to go the analyst route first. I'm not entirely sure, but I could absolutely see Nick Saban kidnapping Cliff Kingsbury and forcing him into the Alabama School of Coaching Rehab. When Nick comes calling, it's hard to
it's hard.
It's hard to say no. It's hard to say no. There is a vision where I go a step further with that, and they consummate the lap dance before the big reveal, and then Nick Saban uses the blackmail DNA evidence against Cliff Kingsbury to force him back to T-Town. But
so this is turned into Gone Girl.
Okay, basically, yes. Yes, in a lot of ways, I guess, some ways. Whatever. I don't think that Nick Saban's really going to give Cliff Kingsbury a lap dance. I guess the main question is, though, Aaron, will Alabama fans ever be happy with their coordinators.
No.
Because again, I just don't know that I believe it. I think it's an impossible standard. I think they're going to fall short of that standard. And I think they'll be ready to run whoever, like if they don't win natties, right, which it looks like they're going to struggle to do with Georgia, it doesn't matter how objectively good or bad the coordinators are. If it doesn't result in a national championship, they're going to hate him. And that's the impossible standard that I'm always talking about trying to live up to.
It's that's an interesting thing too. Like I know that there's the thought of if Kirby calls, you're going to pick up. But if Nick calls, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to consider it. But you also have to think as a coordinator, am I going into a situation where the bar is set so high too? Like that, you have to weigh that. Like, is the expectation for me as an offensive coordinator to come in here and turn Alabama to an offense that's scoring 45 points per game? Like you allude to, like, yeah, there is great talent, but with great talent comes great responsibility. So like, if I'm not turning this offense into one of the best offenses in the country, what is the mutiny going to be next year or the year after that? And the same thing with defense. If I don't turn this defense into what Georgia is right now, scoring less than 15 points per game, is my head on the stick then too. So I think people aren't idiots. Like people are seeing the landscape change. They are seeing Alabama kind of slipping away from this dynasty. Do you want to jump on board a sinking ship? Because it is sinking a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again,
do you want to jump on it?
Sinking.
They just got rid of two coordinators that weren't that bad. They were pretty good.
And
one just got hired by the Patriots.
I feel you. I think sinking and taking on water are maybe two different things.
Water.
Like
okay, that's better.
Taking on a little bit of water. Right, yeah. You got the
going
pump
down hard.
Yeah. Wait, Aaron, did you realize that you just used a Spider-Man quote? Basically, what? You said with great talent comes great responsibility. I mean, that is the Spider-Man line. With great power comes great responsibility. I'm proud of you, man. Hell yeah, dude. Is that your favorite Marvel hero?
No.
That's weird.
Iron Man.
For those that don't know, in the video, Aaron just did a like he was shooting webs at me, which felt a bit aggressive to begin with, but then also that noise probably just sounded kind of odd. Who's your favorite Marvel hero then?
I'm gonna go with Fat Thor.
Dude, wow. Aaron, you really are a man of class and culture. I don't know if I've ever told you about that. Like Fat Thor is actually the absolute correct answer in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as to who is the best hero. Aaron, what about this? Henry Campbell says UGA is overrated. I kind of agree. Is UGA done?
What?
I mean, what? Y'all are just losing players left and right?
How is someone going to say? I was going to say someone is overrated if they just won 2 nights. I will say this: it has been a rough.
Brum, give me some music ready to go here in a minute. Give me some music ready to go.
It's been a rough couple of weeks for the Dogs. I'm not going to lie. Since the Natty, it has not been the smoothest of transitions into 2023. The only thing that could make this thing worse is if Todd Monken takes an OC job somewhere. Then it's like, okay, cherry on top. How are we feeling about next year? I ain't feeling as good. So who's more likely? This is the conversation. If you're an offensive coordinator right now, say Todd Monken does leave. Say we wake up tomorrow morning and headline just like today, Todd Monken takes OC job for Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
I would go to job. Who are you going to?
I think Alabama's actually more attractive. Now, you don't have the quarterback situation, so I agree with you. You got to weigh that out. But Georgia, I mean, are you that pumped to coach Ladd McConkey? And I know I'm being a complete hater on McConkey. Like what he's doing with what he has is
Brock
awesome.
Bowers, only the best offensive player in America. Yeah, screw Brock Bowers. Screw Brock. Yeah.
Okay, fair. I'll back off this attack point. And what I will say is I'll just go back to what the last 5 coordinators have gone on to become. Right. Like it is proven to be very fortuitous for you if you go and you be an Alabama offensive coordinator. I think that is stronger than
Georgia would have just turned their offensive coordinator into an offensive coordinator in the NFL for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So
Yeah, the Bucks are done, dude. Tom Brady hates them and is leaving. What are you talking about? The Bucks are going to suck. Who
It's all right.
cares?
They'll
That
get
means nothing.
Aaron Rodgers is going to come down. They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Also, Bama's OCs have turned into like head coaches everywhere, which is, what most of these guys want. I agree with this. Just to watch the melt, I would love to see Bama hire Munkin and Schumann. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. Wait, okay. So I think, look, I want to do a quick. Do we have any license-free Nebraska feeling music that we can play here?
Oh, don't
not right
do
now.
it.
Not with 30 seconds of heads up.
My bad. All good. I didn't know if we just had like a bank of music ready to go. That is true. I want to be clear that I did not like send this to Brum ahead of time or anything. Gloria Easton says, Lad has done well. Lad has done well. Shut up on that. No, you shut up, Gloria. Lad McConkey's the goofiest name I've ever heard in my life and one of the goofiest bodies I've ever seen. But I'm just kidding, Gloria. You are right. He's actually done great. He is. He's got like a tiny little white boy body. It's funny, dude. It's objectively funny. But Nebraska just continues to steal players from UGA. And I'm looking at Nebraska's schedule right now, Aaron Murray, and I'm ready to say it. Okay. I'm ready to say it. Nebraska will 100% go bowling next year. Haven't been bowling since 2016. They got 5 losing teams on the schedule. Let's go game. Okay. At Minnesota, more like PJ Feckless, because not even Allah can restore the bite of that Minnesota offense after the exit of Muhammad Ibrahim. That's a win. 1-11 Colorado next. Coach Prime meets Coach Crime as Matt Rule does a little B&E and steals the first big win of the season in Colorado. Northern Illinois, more like je ne sais quoi Illinois, because I don't know anything about them. Louisiana Tech, big news. Ruston, Louisiana is going to be home of a new $50 million Buc-ee's, but not even that can save them from getting fuckied. Michigan next, please. The Wolverines are going to harp off after they choke on the Cobb. Get out of here, Michigan. At Illinois to start off October, just call Matt Rule Ernie because he's about to dominate Burt. You got a bye week next. Then 1-11 Northwestern. More like Southwest because they might as well cancel that flight to Lincoln because only pain awaits in the cornfields. Purdue, boiler down, boiler going down. Michigan State, Mel down on his lucker doesn't stand a chance. Maryland, what? Dude, the Corn Boys are going to tear up in that ass. Wisconsin, Matt going to prove to Luke just how fickle fate can be as Matt Rule is the best year one hire, not Luke Fickell. And then Friday, it ends in Lincoln with a Black Friday throwdown as the life of Brian Ferentz finally comes to an end as all nepotism prices are slashed after a black shirt Black Friday beatdown. That's 11-0 Nebraska. Just laid it out right there. Core boys, Huskers, I'm with you. Matt Rule is going to be the coach of the year next year. We're going bowling, baby. Let's ride.
All right. So the only thing that I really got from that, T-Bob, is that the Big Ten is really bad. Like when you're going through those names of those teams, I'm like, good God, like the Big Ten sucks. I mean, they're bad. Yeah. It really is like Michigan and Ohio State and I guess Penn State and that's it.
Minnesota's not bad. Minnesota's okay. I think Minnesota 9-4, right?
That conference sucks.
Yeah.
It's honestly depressing. Like, I don't know, man, maybe just call me, a little bit biased because, I live in SEC territory, but like when you start looking at SEC teams and you go through the Big Ten teams, there's a massive drop in that middle section to bottom section of where SEC football is. It literally is like Big Ten up here, top 2 teams, a little bit of a drop to Penn State, and then a massive fall to the rest of the Big Ten. Like, I'm telling you, going through that, I'm like chuckling, like, golly, like, honestly, it could happen because the Big Ten sucks that much that, yes, a first-year head coach could have success right away. Not because they're good, because the conference is shit.
No, Matt Rule's a beast. He's got a Rick Gilbert, okay?
No, conference sucks.
Best tight end, highest rated 247 tight end of all time. I've gone through the Rick Gilbert experience. You've gone through the Rick Gilbert experience. It's finally going to happen for Gilbert in Nebraska. Like Henry David Thoreau, Rick Gilbert went to the cornfields because he wished to live deliberately, okay? And in those fields, he finds himself finally removed from the big city lights of Baton Rouge and all the seedy temptation of Athens. He finds himself out there in Lincoln, Nebraska, and fulfills all of that incredible potential that he has flashed since day one. I can't wait. Nebraska's going to win the Big Ten next year. I'm glad that y'all heard it here first on Snaps. And yes, Abarge might be right in the chat saying that I'm just trying to recruit Nebraska followers. I am trying to carve out a bit of a niche for myself. Nebraska needs a more national voice, and I will gladly carry that flag. I am a T-Cobb. Yes, I am T-Cobb, corn boy number one, and this is going to be all year, Aaron. Get ready. I know it went wrong for us this year, but we hired the right guy. This is where it starts. And it starts by taking Kirby Smart's best players.
Don't peak too soon. We all know with Matt Rule from Temple to Baylor, you're betting on year one, and he's not had success in year one. Give it to year two before you start getting all fat and cocky.
No. Not had success is not fully representative. He has turned around awful teams into bowl teams in year number one, I believe. Let me do a quick.
No, he hasn't.
Yes, he has.
No, he hasn't. First years have been terrible for him, and then second years is when he really gets things going.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He went 2-10 and 1-11 in his first years. Yeah. Hey, here's the point, though, guys. Here's the point. You heard all the jokes. Je ne sais quoi il noir. I mean, come on. Okay? That's bowl season. They're going bowling. Don't think too much about it. Yeah, okay. You know what? But, hey, you know what, though? He's already done it twice, so he knows what it takes to avoid that here in this third time around. Nebraska's going to be great. Going bowling, dude. Guaranteed. Bet the over as soon as FanDuel puts the over under on whatever Nebraska's win total is going to be. And then sign up for FanDuel and use the promo code Baton Rouge. Use the promo code SNAPS. Not too much radio, dude. Just bleeding through my ears. FanDuel Sportsbook app, promo code SNAPS. Huge thank you to the volume for having us here. Please, y'all, if you like it, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hear the volume. Also, wherever you listen to podcasts, as I say, we're almost at 50 reviews. Let's go. We should do some sort of giveaway for somebody who has reviewed the show thus far once we hit 50. But if you like the show, you can rate or review it wherever you listen to podcasts, and that helps spread it out. Huge thank you to Ryan Brumley, Paul Farrington, Pat Gunner, Danny Cardenas. Huge thank you to you, Aaron Murray, and most of all, a huge thank you to everybody hanging out with us in chat who takes the time to listen, who shares it with their friends. We love you so much, and we'll be back tomorrow with more Saps.